You're listening to the Telltale Channel. In this podcast, Project 2025, a policy manifesto written by a Republican think tank, was infiltrated by an undercover journalist. It is so interesting to see what Christian nationalists say to people when they think nobody else is listening. In another training video, two women talk about language and code words. The goal is to eliminate any language that could be oppositional to Republicans from government documents. You have to hear this. Richard Dawkins spread misinformation about an Algerian boxer. Facebook locked his account for entirely different reasons, but he claimed he was being persecuted for his shithead opinions. He had to come out and apologize to Facebook when he found out what happened. Not to the boxer, Facebook. Christian nationalist Joel Webbon says he absolutely hates democracy. This is a talking point I've heard a few times before, but it's getting real attention now. How did we get to a point where people openly announce they hate democracy, and it's just accepted by everybody around them? We also take voicemails. If you want to leave a voicemail, the number is 1-800-701-8573. If you keep it under like 60 seconds, I'm nearly guaranteed to hear it. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. I have this voicemail caller. He goes by Guy Young, I believe. Says it before every voicemail. Hey, Owen, Guy Young, Brookfield, Illinois, I think is what he said. Anyway, he left a string of voicemails. Because you notice I only listen to them if they're under 60 seconds. So he left like 30 voicemails that are 15 seconds each. Anyway, Guy, next time, if you want to make it under 60 seconds, you can. Kind of condense it into one thing. And normally I wouldn't play stuff this long because it's not really like, it's not a good format for my style, but it seems like you put a lot of work into it, so we'll play it. You wouldn't believe how long it took me to piece all these together, and unfortunately I got his iconic intro cut out somehow. Hey, Owen, Guy Young, Brookfield, Illinois.
Trump was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and never had to work a day in his life. Hitler was born low, middle class, and struggle. I believe both of them. I know Trump had a tough father. I believe Hitler had a tough father, too.
For the record, I personally think that Hitler was insane and immoral, actively setting out to hurt the people around him for the sake of hurting them, like diverting money from the war effort into the death camps to take out as many Jews as he possibly could before he went out when he realized he was losing. For example, that's just one example. He genuinely wanted to kill people. I don't think Trump does. I think he would be willing to if the circumstances meant he got a little more money or power or fame or whatever. But I think his motivation is solely to benefit himself, not necessarily to hurt others. However, Trump has absolutely eroded our democracy to a degree that, the Nazi Party eroded democracy in the 1920s in Germany. Hitler destroyed democracy in 1933, but before that, Germany fell into dictatorship, and the fall looked very much like what's happening to the U.S. right now. So anyway, I don't think he's like Hitler, but he's operating in an environment that produced Hitler at the very least. And he's producing this environment. He's creating it.
Other two. Trump has basically proven that his only skill is grifting and performing as a rich man. He has lost billions in failed businesses, thriving through tax dodging, failing to pay contractors, declaring bankruptcy numerous times, while always finding a new grift. Hitler struggled as a youth, but later on in his life, he demonstrated a decent skill as an artist, but was unable to survive on that skill. He did any number of things to survive. Trump was a cowardly draft dodger. Hitler was a decorated World War I hero.
All true, yeah, absolutely. Hitler was selling paintings on like postcards and stuff to survive, and he was rejected from like art schools multiple times because the people that he drew were like lifeless. They didn't seem to have any emotion in their face or anything. He was really into architecture though. And when he was trying to create a new Germany, he tried to create a new everything, like a German form of chemistry, really. A German version of mathematics, a German form of architecture and everything. And he even went as far as to like tear down houses to replace them with German architecture. Dead serious. Anyway, he was a big fan of like arts and architecture, but only his kind of art and architecture.
Hero who was gassed but survived. He had actually been a selected corporal by vote of his platoon, and he did all the hardest tasks for his comrades, showing a concern for others that Hitler has never demonstrated. Trump was living the
he was a courier. He was carrying messages, and he was gassed. 100%. You're right.
Trump was living the life of a debaucher, doing things like funding beauty pageants so he could ogle scantily clad young women in dressing rooms, even sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll, and hanging out with noted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Hitler, disillusioned after the war, as were many German soldiers, joined a Nazi party. And
disillusioned after World War I. Yeah, 100%. They were unhappy with it. And the word for like people is Volk in German. I think it's pronounced like folk, F-O-L-K, but it's spelled V-O-L-K. But it's not just like German people. There's like a mystical undertone to it, the word. And it only applies to like pure-blooded German people. That has existed for like ever. It's weird. They have a divine, unique right to rule. That's kind of like the perspective that Germany had at the time. That's why nationalism was so rampant. They believed that they were special and unique and had a unique right to everything. Anyway, yeah. The word Volk was commonly paired with the word Volkisch, which means I compare them to the words race and racist, but they're not really exactly like that. It means ethno-nationalist, kind of extreme personality, where you believe that pure-blooded Germans, Aryans, are the ones that deserve to own everything in the whole 9 yards. That atmosphere existed, as Guy Young is saying, after the war in droves. It was all over the place after World War I. And that environment of, to try to put it into context, that environment of like having that environment of believing that you have a divine right to rule, much like evangelicals today, is what produced the Nazi movement. A lot of the things that we see in Germany in that time period are really familiar. We see it today. I keep thinking to myself, like, what's a good analogy or a good comparison to the word folk? But I don't even need to get a comparison because we see that from evangelicals. Yeah, I totally get that. This mystical belief that you deserve to rule everything, 100%. I see that all the time. So many things from that time period connect to this one. It's wild.
After the war, as were many German soldiers, joined a Nazi party, and upon reaching a certain standing in that party, attempted a power grab, the Bear Hall Push.
That's true. 1923, I think he staged a coup, much like January 6th, except this coup was successful until it wasn't. I think he managed to capture some congressmen, and I think one of them died. I don't remember. He got appointed to some positions, but the military came in from outside and shut it down, put him in prison, sentenced him to 5 years for high treason. He only served 9 months for good behavior. There was some weird thing in Germany at the time where if you were doing something for patriotic reasons, you get a lighter sentence. It's basically like a resort that you go to instead of prison. You're separated from society, but you have all kinds of modern amenities, and you can write and talk to people and wander around stuff. That's what Hitler was sent to, because he did it for patriotic reasons. Back to that Volk thing, that obsession with having, with that national identity, the exceptionalism that was part of it.
The push failed and led him in jail, where he wrote his manifesto, Mein Kampf, a book Trump owns a copy of. Maybe the only book Trump has attempted to read, let alone...
I think that he owned a copy of Hitler's speeches, Trump did, as claimed by Ivana Trump, his ex-wife. The most surprising part of that would be that Trump reads. I can't imagine that. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he owned a copy of his speeches at all.
Trump owns a copy of. Maybe the only book Trump has attempted to read, let alone write. He, of course, agreed to a ghostwriter sifting through his rambling thoughts and managing to make art of a deal. At some point, Trump realized he would never become the richest man, in his mind, and powerful. He came up with his masterpiece. Seeing how poorly educated he loves them, poured money into coffers of megachurch prosperity preachers, and realizing GOP voters are stupid, he decided to run as a Republican to try to become the most powerful man on earth, the President of the United States. calculated he could grift billions of dollars, both he and his family. He might not have what Musk and Bezos had, but they weren't POTUS. Hitler saw the despair of post-war and Great Depression Germany and offered them renewed hope to make Germany the greatest power on earth. He blamed the Jews for Germany's struggles. Trump blames immigrants.
Yeah, the Jews were the immigrants of the time and place. 100%. Jews, in their mind, were not folk in the same way because they weren't born there. They weren't from the tribes that produced Aryans or whatever. It's all the same. It's all exactly the same. However, Jewish Germans did view themselves as folk. They believed that they were equally as special as being part of Germany. And a lot of Jewish Germans were ultra-nationalists, obsessed with the idea that Germany was exceptional and deserved everything. And there were even a disproportionate number of Jews on the front lines fighting in World War I, surprisingly. You know, Nazis tried to prove that Jews knew what was happening in World War I, knew they were going to lose, and were just sending Germans to their death for depopulation efforts or some other ridiculous thing. So they did this study to see like how many Jews were out there on the front lines. And wouldn't you know it, it was proportionately more Jews than non-Jews. Isn't that funny? Like proportional to their population or whatever. They quietly buried that report till it was unearthed by historians later.
After gaining power, he tested the will of a war-weary Europe to oppose him. He even ramped up the persecution. That's when he ramped up the persecutions of undesirables, gays, gypsies, mentally handicapped, and of course the hated Jews, by starting the ghetto, pogroms, and concentration camps.
I think the word, I feel it's important to just say it. I think the word gypsy is actually derogatory now. I think it's Roma is the word, because that word has been used in a lot of really offensive ways in the past, like saying I've been gypped, for example, or claiming that they're living like gypsies, or, it's like they don't have a home to live in because they're poor and they just beg people for money. It's a stereotype that's really ugly that's existed for like years and nobody's said anything about it because it just didn't connect. But yeah, they're Roma. That's the ethnicity or whatever. Roma people. I wouldn't normally use the word, but I think it's important to clarify in these cases. So it wasn't offensive, 15 years ago to most of society. I didn't realize that it was an ethnicity, honestly. So it totally makes sense that, people would be using that word casually, because I used it casually. But yeah, there are people out there that, feel hurt or affected by it. So I figured I should mention.
Camps. Not yet the Holocaust. You started the Holocaust really when he started the invasion of Poland at the beginning of World War II. Up until this point, he still was not, the world had still not realized what a monster he was. Trump, if he gains power, would do similar, not the gassing of Jews and everything, but the deportation, going just a step less. But
yeah, 100% agree. And that's how it started with Hitler, actually. Again, Hitler was a megalomaniacal nutcase who was desperate to kill as many people as he possibly could and holds the reins of control to his dying breath. That's immoral. I think Trump is just amoral, just lacking morality, willing to do whatever it takes to further his own goals. So there is that difference. But his own goals do involve rounding up immigrants, just like they did in Germany at the time, and putting them into camps, concentrating the population into camps, concentration camps, different from death camp. I don't see the death camp thing happening in the United States, but concentration camp, absolutely. Yes, 100%. And hell, I wouldn't put anything past Trump. Maybe the death camp thing would be a possibility. Probably not, but maybe.
A step less. But I actually believe that Trump would gas Jews if that was approved by the country and that he could get away with it.
I agree.
Trump has managed to harness the racism, xenophobia, intolerance, and general stupidity of the worst generation in American history, mine, the boomers, and at everything in a platter by our so-called, don't forget these are the people who groomed us to hate and fear those different than us. The ones who defeated the Nazis, Imperial Japan, and Fascist Italy. Boomers and greatest conveniently forget Communist Soviet Union was on the way to crush Germany with our Lend-Lease equipment playing just as big a role as our GIs and Air Force. Trump used a delusional conviction, we are infallible, to agree to throw away our democracy, something Germany tried for the first time after humbling defeat in World War I. After a humbling defeat in World War I in the middle of economic chaos, Hitler seized control of Germany. Meanwhile, we have the strongest economy and the longest-lived democratic republic in history, and yet he and the GOP have convinced 45% of the country that this system is failing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. In the 1920s, like 1923 or something, I wrote about this in my book, The Church in Chains. What did I name it? I changed the name recently, so I don't remember. How Hitler exploited faith to gain control. It hasn't released yet, but I wrote about this in my book. Hyperinflation was absolutely obscene at the time. This is like my draft, one of my drafts for my book here. I made a chart to show hyperinflation in Germany. So 1913, before World War I, a German mark was worth 4 per dollar, basically, 4 German marks per dollar. 1918, December 1918, 8 marks per dollar. It's like half of what it was, right? So people making like $30,000 a year, for example, now make $15,000 a year because of that level of inflation, basically. April 1919, 12. It increased by 50% again. 1921, 263 per US dollar. It took 263 German marks to buy 1 US dollar. That is nuts. Then 493 in July 1922. August, 1,000. October, 3,000. December, 7,000. January 1923, 17,000 German marks to buy a dollar. April 1923, 24,000 German marks. July, 353,000. August 1923, 4.6 million German marks to buy 1 US dollar. September 1923, 98.8 million. I'm going through the chart for the audio audience. October 1923, a month later, 25.2 billion German marks to get $1. November 1923, 2.1 trillion German marks per US dollar. And then December 1923, 4.2 trillion. It got so intense that they had to invent new words in certain languages to describe how big these numbers were. And they had like economists coming out and talking about these big numbers and like mathematicians explaining like a trillion is equal to 1,000 million or a billion. A billion is worth 1,000 million. So we can just refer to like a million as blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they had people coming out and talking about that at the time. They dug themselves out of that by like 1924, I think, by creating a brand new currency that was on the gold standard, is linked to the cost of gold. So it went up and down based on gold prices, but it was bad. There's a story of a girl that was selling herself for a stick of butter. There's a real story that really happened. We have her diary. Anyway, that was after World War I. That was after they had to pay war reparations, and then you get speculators coming in and betting on the currency to fail, shorting the German currency, and they were right, it failed. You got super rich off of it. Eventually, it was pulled out of that hole by the Weimar Republic, the democratic government that existed at the time, and they fixed the economy. It was really, really good by the time Hitler took control, and then Hitler plunged it back into complete chaos by starting the war effort. He's basically putting them right back into this absolutely insane state of hyperinflation just to build tanks and stuff. It was impressive how they avoided the rules of the Treaty of Versailles. They were only technically allowed to have like 100,000 soldiers at any given moment. And Hitler got around that by getting his people to create new organizations made up of kind of paramilitary members called the SA, brown shirts, and the SS, which is like his private security. And they built it out into a fully fledged organization. Airplanes were being purchased at like a ridiculous rate in Germany at the time. And it was pretty clear to everybody that, you know, something's going, like they're building a ton of airplanes. So they were marking them down on documents as airplanes for training, to train people to fly them. 58% of the airplanes that were purchased by Germany leading up to World War II were marked down as trainer planes. Anyway, sorry, got off on a tangent there. Let's keep listening to Guy Young here.
Trump is thought better than Hitler because he isn't directly responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. Hitler brought this on by convincing a downtrodden nation he alone could fulfill their dreams. This is something a con man like Trump could never have done.
It's called populism, and yeah, appealing to common man, claiming that the rich are responsible for all your problems. In Hitler's case, the Jewish elites were responsible, who sent them to war and made them fail and everything else. And, weaponized all of that into hate against immigrants and vice versa.
Strong-willed and at times courageous. When his country realized he had brought ruin and death, they tried to kill him. This failed. The Allies never tried to kill him because he was a terrible military commander. At this point in Trump's career, he has not done the damage that Hitler did to his country and the world. This is solely because we are so strong. However, the Heritage Foundation and GOP have been chipping away at our weakest points, like the Electoral College and SCOTUS.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know what's fascinating? Hitler used to lie about crowd sizes all the time. It was like his big thing. But he never questioned election results, fascinatingly, to my knowledge. I have seen no evidence of that. And I've been neck deep in this subject for months now, trying to research for my book. That's interesting, right? Hitler never questioned Hitler never questioned the legitimacy of elections. I would have thought that'd be the first thing he did.
And the Heritage Foundation has also undermined local government in swing states and judicial personnel ever since Reagan. We are now at our weakest, and they are at their strongest. Yet we still have time and the will to save the country and the world. Trump's first term caught the Republicans not fully prepared, so they had to show their hand and have revealed their true plan, Project 2025.
Agreed.
Now they've crawled out from the dark. We know what they planned for this country. If re-elected, Trump and the GOP could surpass Hitler. It will take longer because we are so strong that the likelihood of a nuclear war is limited by assured mutual destruction. But what if other sociopathic leaders like Putin, Un, Xi, or Iran decide if we can't have it all, no one will have anything?
That's why denuclearization is so important, and why, in my opinion, nuclear weapons just should not exist anywhere by anybody, period. That it should be like a legal mandate worldwide. No nuclear weapons. That's just me. And you know what? If it were me, I would actually take the step of completely denuclearizing the United States. Completely. Get rid of all of them. But I'd have, the European countries to back us up in case somebody did something stupid, like try to nuke the United States. There would still be nukes over there, pointed at everybody.
Even combined and attacking together, we cannot be beaten by them. But what is left of the planet will no longer sustain human life. They might not care, but we do. Barring this quick death, the energy policy that will be implemented would leave a scorched, uninhabitable landscape within the next 100 to 200 years, maybe sooner. In the meantime, the collapse of government oversight or intentional sabotage of law, education, organization would leave us in chaos. Instead of being the Earth's best hope, we would have become her executioner. If we vote blue, the nightmare is slowed and eventually stopped, then reversed. Vote blue. Hey, Owen, Guy Young, Brookfield, Illinois.
Oh, hey, I guess I included it at the end. Yeah, agreed. I agree. Vote blue. 100%. We need to fix this problem that we found ourselves in. It's a mess. We need to do something. And, so a lot of this stuff is kind of, people feel down about it. I don't want you to feel down about this. This may not even help. This might make you feel even more down, but let me put it this way. The universe ends when I die, for me. I'm just it's gone. That's it. So I shouldn't really care what happens after a certain point in time, because I'm not going to be here to see it. Who cares? Whatever. But I do care about the people around me and about the human race generally, about making sure it survives and builds and grows. So while I'm here, before the universe ends for me, I'm going to try to make sure that fewer people have their universe end, and that more of them enjoy the time that they have here, basically, as long as they have it. It's just part of my moral code, I guess you could say. Just reduce suffering as much as possible. Thank you, Guy. I appreciate that set of voicemails. Yeah, just leave voicemails under 1 minute next time instead of 15 seconds. Next up, Project 2025, a policy manifesto written by a Republican think tank, was infiltrated by an undercover journalist. It is so interesting to see what Christian nationalists say to people when they think nobody else is listening. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. This thing called Project 2025, you've probably heard about it by now, but if you haven't, I'll explain as we go. It's just this kind of policy proposition that is absolutely insane. It's like a Christian nationalist 900-page manifesto. Apparently a journalist infiltrated the whole movement and got a whole bunch of recordings and materials and stuff. I want to listen to some of this. You know what else? I got the presentations, the slides from Project 2025's training courses. I have the slides. We're going to take a look at them in a little while. They got the training videos from them, and oh my God, they're weird. Listen to this. This is from ProPublica.
You probably want to do is if you need to resolve something, you're probably better off going down to the canteen, getting a cup of coffee, talking it through and making the decision, as opposed to sending them an email and creating a thread that accountable.us or one of those other groups is going to come back and seek, and you're going to have to explain why you're withholding it, and you're going to fight in court. It's going to be a lot of expense. It's an email that's better resolved with a meeting.
Dude is explaining how to avoid accountability. That is nuts. Of course, they expected this to originally just be within their little group. It's not just within their group now, but those are the types of things that these extremist Christian nationalists talk about when they think no one else is listening. Just nuts, man. Listen to this next one. This is from an undercover journalist that released this. It's a little bit on the longer side, so we're just going to listen.
Two undercover reporters posing as donors are about to meet one of the key architects of Project 2025, the radical plan for Trump's second term.
Donors. They were donors, okay? Or they were posing as donors.
In a hotel suite rigged with hidden cameras.
Nice to meet you. Would you like coffee or something? I'd love coffee. Yeah. Great.
Truly surprised they even met him in a hotel, because usually when something is super top secret like this, they'll refuse to meet anywhere but their own office.
Meet Russ Vogt.
Russell Vogt, the former director of the Office of Management and Budget.
He's been called the most dangerous MAGA diehard you've never heard of.
I am opposed to the Department of Education because I think it's the Department of Critical Race Theory.
The Russ Vogt were comrades in arms.
Formerly a cabinet member and chief lieutenant in the first Trump admin.
Whoop! Did you catch that one? He was in the first Trump administration. Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? Basically everybody involved in Project 2025, even in the videos that we're about to watch, all of them practically, except maybe one, were in the Trump administration. So Trump can claim he doesn't know what Project 2025 is all he wants. He does, obviously. And you'll see in a second why he said what he said.
I want to thank Russ for doing an incredible job.
He now runs a group called Center for Renewing America.
An organization that I helped turn into the Death Star that is accomplishing all the debates that you are reading about.
Dude, I love when villains compare themselves to movie villains. These people, these Christian nationalists. Why'd you pick the Death Star as the thing that you want to be like? Are you serious? It's like that famous film. I don't remember what it was, but Nazis had jet black uniforms with skull emblems on their stuff, and they look over to themselves and they say, "Are we the baddies?" If you're wearing that stuff, maybe you're the bad guy. If you're talking about creating the Death Star, maybe it's you.
I think you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism. The largest deportation in history, block funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to be the person who crushes the deep state.
They don't want to crush it. They want to create the deep state or co-opt it or whatever.
Vogt is one of the key authors of the blueprint for a second Trump administration.
Project 2025.
It's an ambitious 920-page blueprint.
Eliminating the Department of Education.
The mass firings of civil servants.
Banning access to the abortion pill and further restricting abortion rights.
In recent weeks, the plans have become so controversial that Trump has been forced to distance himself.
They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right.
Yeah, he also tweeted that he knew nothing about it.
And they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25.
Are you ready? I know nothing about Project 25. I haven't seen the document. I don't intend to really see the document.
It's just a lie. Objectively, we know that it is a lie that he's telling right now.
But behind closed doors, the vote tells us not to take Trump's disavowal seriously.
I expect you to hear 10 more times from the rally, the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman at Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
He's running against a brand. He is not running against any people.
Okay.
He is not running against any institutions. It's interesting. He's in fact not even opposing himself to a particular policy.
That's true, isn't it? Isn't that this guy's making good points? Fascinating.
Yeah. He's been at our organization. He's raised money for our organization. He's blessed it from when we're walking into our last day in office and told him what I was going to do.
You catch that? Our last day in office. I told him what we were going to do. Donald Trump knew. He knew. He has known this whole time.
We do. So he's very supportive of what we do.
Our investigation into Project 2025 began 2 weeks before the meeting with Vote at a conference for religious nationalists in D.C.
The truth is, Christian nationalism is not a threat to American democracy. Christian nationalism founded American democracy.
No, it didn't. I remember this. Josh Hawley. This poor fool, man. He was like pumping his fist at the January 6th people and all that right before the riot happened. Isn't he like a Harvard graduate or something? He's not an idiot. And I've seen him use logic, apply it to different situations. I believe Josh Hawley is acting in bad faith. He's doing this intentionally, knowingly, in my opinion.
Journalists from the Center for Climate Reporting have come posing as potential donors, looking to meet those involved in Project 2025. They're not hard to find. The Heritage Foundation, the group running the project, are here. So is Vote's think tank. We make the acquaintance of Mika Meadowcroft, an author on Project 2025 and a close aide to Vote. He tells us that Vote is running the secretive second phase of Project 2025.
The second phase, after the book came out, was...
Wow, so this is Vote's aid. Interesting.
Break down actual sort of policy packets, executive orders, and agenda items, and things like that. And that's been supervised largely.
The first phase of Project 2025 was a 922-page policy book published openly. The second phase is a comprehensive, concrete transition plan for each federal agency.
See, the problem was when Trump got into office, nobody expected him to get into office. Even Trump didn't expect that. He was a mess. He had no idea what he's doing. Dude didn't even seem to know that you had to hire your own staff to work at the White House, which I don't blame him for. I didn't know that stuff either. I've never been in that world before. So what's the Republican Party or what are Republican extremists doing? Writing these plans for him so he doesn't have to. And in return, he will do whatever they want for putting in all the legwork and all of that stuff. He will put in any judge they suggest, they being like the Heritage Foundation or the Project 2025 framers and operators. He'll put in any aid that they want or anything at all. He'll stop aid to He'll stop aid to Ukraine. He'll stop sending aid to anywhere. Doesn't matter. They're saving him so much money, it's ridiculous, by doing all the legwork for him. It's just like the legwork is going to be insane, is all.
These much more detailed plans are confidential.
Yeah. Because obviously you want a little of it to be FOIA-able, if you're familiar with the FOIA process.
Freedom of Information Act is that thing that the guy was talking about earlier, the FOIA, that's what that is, where organizations can request records on a specific subject. Like they want to know everything that Donald Trump has said to or about or whatever the Heritage Foundation regarding Project 2025. And they want all the emails. And if it was sent on like a public infrastructure, like a government email or something, they can get that. As a matter of fact, they can get that anyway through certain lawsuits and stuff. So Dude is talking about how to avoid accountability through the FOIA process. Don't write it down, basically. Say it face to face like we're doing right now. That's nuts, dude.
A little bit to be FOIA-able, if you're familiar with the FOIA process, as possible. Freedom of Information Act, yeah.
The Freedom of Information Act allows the public to request government communications, but Meadowcroft reveals they plan to avoid these rules.
Yeah, the goal is, familiarize all the transition team people with these plans, but you don't actually send them to their work emails, because that, right. You could just give the handbooks to everyone. Be like, this is the game plan for the admin. Yeah. But if the press knows that that's what you're doing, then they're going to immediately just say, I request all of your emails from Heritage. Okay.
You know what's weird? A bunch of people in the Donald Trump sphere, I think Lara Trump maybe, I don't remember who, they were using Gmail accounts in the White House. I remember this because I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's super hypocritical after tearing Hillary a new one about her emails. It's all I heard. But her emails, nonstop. That's all they talk about, buttery mails. Anyway, that's probably why they used Gmail accounts, I imagine. Maybe they was completely innocent with Donald Trump. Maybe Donald Trump's whole family is just innocent in this whole thing. Who knows?
Lookers. I see. So we'll see.
Interesting. Meadowcroft offers to set up a meeting with his boss, Russ Vogt.
You could put me in touch with somebody who looks after his diary or whatever.
Yes, we could put you in touch with his scheduler. Yeah.
Amazing.
So
his scheduler.
Yeah.
Great.
So just tell me when to do that.
We want to meet the man writing the game plan for Trump's second administration. Vogt believes that in his first term, Trump's agenda was frustrated by what he calls the deep state.
They may explain here, but the deep state is not real, okay? It's not... when you hear the words deep state, you think this underground cabal, that pulls strings like puppet masters to blah, 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 blah. That's not real. That doesn't exist. You think the government is that coordinated that they can, pull strings like puppet masters? You can't get half of them to agree on one thing. Anyway, when they say deep state, they're talking about... the executive branch infrastructure, like the FBI, CIA, hell, all the way down. We'll talk about even regulation agencies like the EPA, the Department of Education, all of it. They're just normal employees commonly hired through a hiring process, and they're not political. They're just doing their job every day. Coming in, do their job, leave. But in Trump's mind, he wants to convince everybody else that it's the deep state. And they're all working together nefariously to take advantage of people and all that stuff. So here's Project 2025's really disturbing plan. This is the part that really bothers me. They have a plan to, quote unquote, replace the deep state, to get Trump appointees, Trump loyalists, into positions of authority all the way down the chain in government office. Just people that are just normally hired, not even political appointees. Like the manager at the DMV, for example. You don't know when that person will come in handy. You want them to stop registering people to vote when they come through? That's illegal, but, stretch the bounds of law a little bit, right? That's not too big of a deal. That's why Trump wants to have everybody, all the way down. And if he had, January 6th would have been irrelevant, because everybody all the way down the chain would have made it work for him. He would have stayed in office. He's trying to destroy the infrastructure that protected our democracy from him, basically. So listen to what they say about the deep state here.
Agenda was frustrated by what he calls the deep state. So Vogt is planning a radical centralization of government power under the president, firing civil servants and ending the independence of agencies like the FBI and DOJ.
This is I don't like going back to Hitler every time because Trump is not Hitler. I don't believe that. But the environment that existed in Germany in the 1920s and 30s is here in America for sure. Hitler was insane. His mind was gone. He was ready to take out as many people as he could. And by the end of the war, when he realized he was going to lose, he diverted resources from the front lines, from the war effort, and put it into the death camps because he just really wanted people to die. Not joking. He was nuts. I don't think Trump is nuts like that. I think he's amoral and willing to do whatever it takes to get him ahead. If killing 6 million people gets him ahead, I don't think he's above, or I don't think he's beneath that, or is it above that? I don't think he's unwilling to do that, but that's not necessary, really. He just wants to destroy the political infrastructure of the United States. Simple as that. Anyway, regarding Hitler, this is what Hitler did, centralizing power. In fact, this isn't just what Hitler did. This is what every authoritarian regime necessarily does. They must do this. They must centralize power into like one person. Democracies operate off of checks and balances for everyone's protection. You know, there's complete gridlock in Congress, between Congress, the Supreme Court, and the president. No one can get anything done. But that's better than people doing insane stuff. If it's all centralized in one place, with all of the power being in Trump's hands, or anybody's, hell, Biden's or whatever, Kamala Harris's hands, it's a recipe for absolutely insane behavior. Anyway, keep listening here. So they're saying that they're going to centralize power, like a dictatorship.
The deep state. So Vote is planning a radical centralization of government power under the president, firing civil servants and ending the independence of agencies like the FBI and DOJ.
Hitler's event of doing this is called the Night of the Long Knives, but he was actually killing people.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence. They're independent from the president.
Vote has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories.
Holy shit, dude, that's crazy, right? That's nuts, man. We're going to take a closer look at some of this stuff in a little while, but this is crazy.
It's also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories, arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration. Right.
Isn't it fascinating how there's police violence against a minority group in the United States, and these old white straight guys somehow make it about them? Right? Using the military against protesters is completely contrary to what America was founded on, the principles on which it was founded. It's contrary to everything this country's ever stood for. Our right to protest is unimpeachable. Threatening to use the military even, not even doing it, but just threatening it, to use the military against protesters creates a chilling effect, where people don't want to protest because they think they might get thrown in jail. That happened to me. There are a ton of protests around me. I'm in Manhattan, and I could go to them, but I don't want to get locked up and lose the work that I'm doing. So one of us, either me or my wife, stays behind when we go to protests, just in case. So one of us can like run things from here and try to get the other out of jail against ridiculous charges, you know. Chilling effect. Now they're getting the military involved, ready to gun down American citizens. That's crazy.
We put out, for instance, a 50-page paper designed for lawyers to know that the president has, the ability both along the border and elsewhere to maintain law and order with.
Dude, I'd love to get my hands on that document.
Military, and that's something that it's going to be important for him to remember and his lawyers to affirm, but we've given them the case for that.
With loyalists installed in key government agencies and armed with his playbook, Vote believes a radical Christian nationalist agenda can be realized under a second Trump presidency. For example, on abortion.
So I think the president's actually come up with a strategy that works so long as you are giving people like me in the government the ability to block funding for Planned Parenthood, block funding for fetal tissue research. But what I've told people is he had the most pro-life record ever.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe just by virtue of doing whatever the hell establishment Republicans wanted. But George Bush was actually nuts, like real nuts. Banning stem cell research or banning like funding for it or whatever the hell. I don't remember what he did. That set us back as a world and as a country so much, what Bush did. Oh my God.
Record ever. I've never seen him to stand in the way of a pro-life initiative that actually was real, politically and with momentum.
Dude, I don't believe that Trump is even anti-abortion, truthfully. I think that he is in favor of whatever gets him elected. He was pro-abortion for years. And really, do you think Donald Trump, of all people, is anti-abortion? You know the dude is paid for abortions, which is fine. But don't, come out there and claim that you're anti-abortion, hurt other people. Didn't Trump say something about he couldn't go to Vietnam because he was, participating in orgies or something? I don't even remember now. He absolutely, for sure, most definitely is in favor of abortion in his heart of hearts.
And for Vote, Trump's pick for vice president shows he's serious about pushing this ideological agenda when in power.
So I am very happy with the JD pick. I think it's transformative for sure.
Dude, I did not see it coming.
And think of him as a member version of what we do.
Yeah.
So there's no think tank, no policy organization, no battle plan creator other than us for the worldview that I think Donald Trump has and that JD has.
But as public backlash against these plans builds, the Trump campaign has been scrambling to distance themselves from Project 2025's authors.
It's complete and utter bullshit for any reporter to write that this is the way it is. The president's made it clear these people do not speak for him. They do not speak for the campaign.
But Vote.
Well, they may not speak for him or the campaign, but he's definitely following their lead, if you will.
But Vote tells us that behind the scenes, things are much friendlier. The Trump campaign recently picked him to write the Republicans' policy platform, making him essentially Project 2025's man on the inside.
I think the best example is the campaign selected me to be the platform because of their views on my policy ideas. And
isn't that interesting? Donald Trump denies any affiliation with Project 2025, and here we have the guy that was appointed to work with him talking about it.
Policy ideas, and they're not running from all of the negativity that I get from the press.
I see. So they haven't been spooked on you as a person, you don't think?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be their transition pick because then they have all these kinds of stories.
Yeah.
But no, the relationship is great.
The head of the Trump transition team has not yet been appointed. But Vote says that no matter who is named, he'll be able to hand over his Project 2025 battle plans directly.
If it's someone like Stephen Miller or Bob Lighthizer, then all the stuff gets plugged right in. If it's not, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But all of it will be designed for a theory of the case that if a battle plan is out there that will do what he wants, there are people like me that have his trust that will be able to get it to him.
You know, this is an intensely well thought out, fully formed out document. Like they said earlier, 920 pages. I wrote a book that was 300 something pages, and that took me months and months. I mean, it could take people years to write these things if it's just one person or even two writers working together. It takes so long to do this stuff, and it's 900 something pages. That's nuts. They must have been working on this since the moment that Biden took office, and it's every policy prescription. Trump has no policy at all. I don't know of any policy the dude talks about. He's all about attacking people, disparaging people, complaining about how he's being treated and all that stuff. It's all about how he doesn't like certain groups of people, basically. But there's no policy. None. These guys are doing it for him.
In whatever position we're at, or I could be at Center for New America, but the relationships will be there. The trust level will be there.
Project 2025's Radical Phase 1 policy book turned into a PR disaster.
The director of Project 2025 has stepped down after facing criticism from both Democrats and the Trump campaign.
I remember that.
But Vote's Phase 2 battle plans, top secret and handed directly to the transition team, remain unburdened by the brand.
And are you going to rebrand that second phase at all?
For what I do?
Yeah.
The brand's not important.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
And you're not worried that if it has Project 2025 on, he's going to go
No.
Yeah, it can look as bad as they want, right? Who cares? Like, it's not going to hurt them. They're just going to keep doing really messed up stuff. They don't care about, like, voters' interests or where the country is. They're not affected by whether, you know, banning birth control or abortion or whatever is unpopular. It's irrelevant to them. They're just trying to push their agenda on people. And if you don't know their agenda, I mean, they've laid it out already, but let me have, like, an actual representative, like a member of the House. I think he's the Oklahoma House of Representatives. Explain what their policy is. Yeah, why not? I mean, there are a number of videos on this subject from Dusty Devers, Oklahoma member of the House of Representatives. He's like in the same sphere as the Project 2025 people.
I want to see pornography abolished. I want to see no-fault divorce come back to at fault.
Late November 2023, by the way.
In divorce, and even public shaming for those who are at fault in divorce. I want to see...
No-fault divorce means you can't get divorced unless you have a good reason to get divorced. You must stay married to this person.
I want to see abortion abolished. These are the kinds of morality and government issues that we need to get back to.
Yeah, I mean, the government shouldn't be legislating morality ever, literally ever. It should only be protecting people's fundamental rights, their right to free speech, their right to freedom of religion, their right to not incriminate themselves against unreasonable search and seizure, all that stuff. That's it. That's what the federal government should do. He wants to impose his moral beliefs on you by banning porn and stuff. That's nuts. And here is this clip right here. It's only like 5 seconds long, but it's my favorite clip maybe of all time.
When we saw churches closing for long periods, we saw people, you know, with this love your neighbor propaganda.
Love your neighbor propaganda. I eat this up, dude. I love everything about it. It's just so good. Anyway, let's keep listening to this Project 2025 thing.
And you're not going to publish those?
Not going to publish the documents for lawyers that will explain how to do everything, is what he's saying.
No.
They go straight to...
Yeah, they're very, very close hold.
Okay.
They go straight to Trump.
Brilliant. It's been an education.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Anytime.
Thank you very much.
Dude looked at the camera. He looked right at the camera just now. Oh my God. He realized at the last moment. He realized. Oh God. What was he thinking in this moment? He knew it was in this moment that he realized he is f***ed, right?
Thank you very much. You can show stuff out.
Wow, man. Anyway, Project 2025 decided to tweet this joke video to show how hyperbolic people are being or whatever. This isn't hyperbole. They have specifically, explicitly stated they want to ban birth control. They want to ban porn. They want to ban abortion and all kinds of stuff. They want to legislate morality, force you to live the way they want you to live. I mean, full-blown Saudi Arabia stuff. And they tweet this video out as a joke to show how ridiculous the lefties are.
Shout like that, they put you in jail right away. No trial, no nothing. Journalists, we have a special jail for journalists. You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail. Right.
This is actually funny. It's obviously trying to cover their tracks or whatever, but I can appreciate the humor.
To jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail. You're charging too high prices for sweaters, glasses. You right to jail. You undercook fish, believe it or not, jail. You overcook chicken, also jail. Undercook, overcook. You make an appointment with the dentist and you don't show up, believe it or not, jail, right away. We have the best patients in the world because of jail.
That's pretty funny. I can appreciate that, but it's insane. But it's trying to cover up their insanity in other areas. So remember that when you see this stuff. Anyway, I'm kind of running out of time here, but there is another thing I want to talk about. It's the slides in their presentations. So they have these training videos, and we're going to watch another soon. If the video hasn't released already, then it will tomorrow. But let's read some of these slides. So at the end of every single training video, like all 23 of them or whatever. By the way, I'm going to be watching the training videos start to finish. If you want to watch them with me, we're going to be talking about it on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered YouTube channel. Wednesday and Thursday mornings, 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. would just hang out and watch this stuff. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Let me give some context to the training courses. Project 2025 built up a database of tens of thousands of people who are some educated, some not, some involved in politics, some not, just people of all bit different backgrounds who, above all else, will be loyal to Donald Trump and only Trump, not the Constitution, not the laws, Trump. You'll see what I mean in a minute. They built up this database, and depending on where they are going to plug you into the system on Donald Trump's behalf, they show you different training videos. So at the end of every single one, they had these course recaps. What you're doing, serving as a political appointee, is different than anything you've done before. There is no profit and loss system. You cannot decentralize. You need the details of the operation. Number 2, the whole process depends on presidential relationships and loyalty to the president. What a fascinating thing to say, right? You are there to implement the president's agenda, not to uphold the Constitution. You don't see that anywhere in here. Number 3, everything you do could end up on the front page of the paper. Keep your agenda close. Number 4, know your legal rights. And number 5, keep contacts outside Washington to keep things in perspective. That's insane. Look at some of these other slides that we've got here. They gave people different slides depending on the training video. This one was for their media training video. Your actions in the media. 1, don't let the media dictate your actions. When the media hits you, remind yourself that you're there to make a difference for the country, not to avoid controversy. Number 2, don't expect that a career employee's first loyalty is to you. Number 3, keep your agenda close. Keep in mind that nearly every action you take will eventually become public. Before doing something, think about how it would look on the front page of the Washington Post. Don't share your agenda widely within your department. It will inevitably leak. They're telling people how to avoid accountability. The Washington Post and other legacy media have contacts at every agency. So trust no one, is what they're saying. Check this one out. Identifying successful political appointees. Successful political appointees are willing to take risks and not just go with the flow. Next one. Successful appointees are willing to stand up to the media. And the last one, the best place to find these candidates is in the campaign. The earlier in the campaign, the better. First steps to take as a cabinet secretary. On day 1, you must rescind all delegations of authority to your subordinates. This will ensure no official below you can perform an official agency action without your approval. Oh my God, dude. That's nuts. They're saying centralized power. Everybody should be centralizing power, and you will be loyal to Donald Trump, so he will control every single agency completely. Place political appointees in the proper roles beneath you before day 1. Use the myriad tools at your disposal to clear the way of insubordinate careerists. Reassign them, incentivize them, and as a last resort, fire them. Again, I don't like going back to Hitler, but because, like I said, Trump is not Hitler. He's not. He's not as bad as Hitler. He's just amoral rather than being actively immoral. But this is the exact that was set up by extremist regimes at the time in the region. This is what happened right here. You know, Hitler consolidated power really, really quickly, which is necessary to create a dictatorship in the first place. That's the first step and the necessary step. Consolidate power. And it happened so rapidly in Germany. And like in 1933, there was an election. Hitler lost the election, but then he was appointed to to be at the top of government, be the chancellor. He was appointed by Paul von Hindenburg, the guy that won the election. And when did that happen? It was January, I think he was appointed. By April 1st, basically, we saw the first anti-Jewish legislation start to come out heavily. And there was like a boycott of Jewish businesses. On April 7th, a bunch of religious institutions started publishing new rules that basically said you must be loyal to the Nazi Party. And it was all downhill from there. By September, just a few months later, you could not voice opposition or you would die. But in April and May and June, roughly, when all of these people were signing over their support to Hitler, like the Catholic Church and the Evangelical Church and all that stuff, they were not obligated to at all. There's like no requirement whatsoever. They did it because they wanted to. Anyway, in 1933, when was the Night of the Long Knives? I forget. Yeah, okay, June 30th, 1934. 1934. That's when Hitler created the political infrastructure that made it so that he could not be opposed. It's impossible to oppose his political ends because he controls everything all the way up the chain. If one person disagrees and thinks that he's violating the Constitution, which, by the way, Germany had a constitution at the time, very similar to ours. If someone thinks he's violating the Constitution, it doesn't matter because every other person in that department supports him. No questions asked. That's what these people are setting up. I don't think that's hyperbole. No official below you can perform an official agency action without your approval. You need to rescind all delegations of authority to your subordinates. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the other slides. Hang on. Okay, here, orienting new political appointees. Working in the federal government is nothing like working in the private sector. There is no profit and loss system to assess outcomes. You must take time to personally determine what's happening at the bureaucratic levels beneath you. Delegate less, follow up more. Centralized power. The best way to assess what's going on beneath you is to staff every level of the bureaucracy with political appointees. Holy dude. We're talking people all the way from like the Department of Energy, just people like that are working on organizing new types of like energy generation or like overseeing power plants, you know, overseeing like nuclear power plants or whatever. All of them should be political appointees loyal to Trump and only Trump. Not the Constitution, Trump. Again, you don't know which person's going to be useful to you. So you have to deck it out. Even the manager at the DMV, everybody in their minds. This will ensure that actions can be delegated and that you, as the principal, are well briefed. Here's identifying successful political appointees. Successful appointees are willing to take risks and not just go with the flow. Successful appointees are willing to stand up to the media. The best place to find these candidates is in the campaign. The earlier in the campaign, the better. Implementing the president's agenda at the agency. Cabinet secretaries should report directly to the president. It's imperative for cabinet secretaries to develop a close working relationship with the president. Cabinet secretaries should be loyal to the president and support his or her agenda. Cabinet secretaries should constantly ask themselves, how would the president govern if he were here in charge of my agency? Even the Department of Education. They're creating a de facto cult around Trump, trying to, I mean, what would Trump do? WWTD at this point, really? What would the president do if he were here in charge of my agency? There's like no room for critical thought or like individual thought. Here, this one is even crazier. This one should be plastered all over everything. Have confidence in your legal authority to act. Become a jailhouse lawyer. Know the law regarding your agency. Study the legal authorities of your position. So, jailhouse lawyer, what they mean by that is, you know, prisoners go to the library and read like law books to try to understand their situation and find the best defense and all that stuff. They're a jailhouse lawyer. They're not legally trained, but they understand the law surrounding their subject of interest. So become a jailhouse lawyer, know the law regarding your agency, study the legal authorities of your position. Always check the law being referenced by a career federal employee, especially if you're being told you can't do something. Always ask questions and get a second opinion. There's no substitute for knowing the law yourself. Have a lawyer on staff who is a political appointee. Why do they want a lawyer on staff who is specifically a political appointee? They didn't say a lawyer who is not on the left. I mean, that could include all kinds of people who are just trying to do their jobs, right? They didn't say that. They said somebody who's specifically loyal to Trump, a political appointee. That is nuts. This is part of them creating a deep state. No joke. Trump believes in nothing but Trump. He runs on law and order, yet he's been convicted on 30 or so felonies. All he has is fear and projection. 100%. I've mentioned before, I'm writing this book. I'm calling it right now, The Church in Chains, How Hitler Exploited Faith to Gain Control. And in my book, I talk about the origins of the words left and right. It started in the French Revolution, and there were people that are physically to the left and to the right of the president at the time, I think is what it was. And the right described the two in a really interesting way. This is how the right described themselves. Defenders of religion and the throne. Friends of order and truth. Sound familiar? Law and order, religious people. All good Frenchmen who love their country, their religion, and the happiness of their brothers. Patriots. And here's how they described the left. Principal enemies of the church and of the monarchy. Jews, Protestants, deists. Academics of the current philosophies. Yeah, he can run on Law and Order all he wants, but it's just like an age-old trick. He's not actually in favor of Law and Order. Never was. You know, they're constantly complaining about the deep state. The deep state, the deep state, ugh! And there's zero evidence for it. And you know what? There should be. Some big coordinated cabal working behind the scenes like this. It doesn't exist. You know how I know? What was it, 2006? The U.S. government was doing some real bad stuff. It was need to know all the way down. You couldn't talk about this stuff unless you were in a secure bunker with like all audio recording devices turned in at the door and stuff. Top secret. They were torturing people in the Middle East. And if that got out, they would face the wrath of the International Criminal Court and all kinds of other groups, other like nonprofits and all kinds of stuff. And also they'd lose the goodwill of the other countries on the planet. And that's exactly what happened. Somebody leaked it. That's what happens in government. If there's something to leak, it will be leaked. I mean, just look at all the information that was leaked about Project 2025. We have all kinds of information on this now, after like all these years. Stuff has come out over the years. If it's interesting, it will be leaked. There is no evidence of a deep state, but there is evidence that the Republican Party is trying to create a deep state now. Next up, in another training video, two women talk about language and code words. The goal is to eliminate any language that could be oppositional to Republicans from government documents. You have to hear this. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. There's this thing called Project 2025. It's been all over the place, just like this program to kind of co-opt the government and hand it over to Donald Trump. It's nuts. Like I said, a bunch of stuff out there about it. I have other videos, so I'm not going to go into it too much right now, but the news just released their training videos that they give to people. And oh my God, they're crazy. These are training videos designed for common people that have never been involved in politics before, but are about to be appointed as political appointees on Donald Trump's behalf to whatever. The EPA, the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, anywhere along the chain. So listen to this. This is from their first training video. I think it's called Language and Code Words, and it's just nuts.
Hi, I'm Katie Sullivan, and just a normal American woman.
I don't believe you.
But to the left, that makes me a cisgendered ethno-imperial.
You seeing her head bob? Look at it. Cisgendered. Well, watch this. Cisgendered, ethno-imperialist, whatever the f she said.
Cisgendered, ethno-imperialist, birthing person with...
Birthing person, okay.
With pronouns she, her.
No. You're just a fucking asshole to me, personally. That's just my opinion on the subject. But okay. Sorry, try not to swear too much. Certainly not at the beginning of videos.
Her. Words like that are quite a mouthful, and it's one America needs to spit out before we choke on it.
Nobody says this stuff. Some of those terms are used in academic literature for academic purposes. Nobody goes around talking about women or just referring to women as birthing persons. Seriously? I've literally never heard anybody outside of an academic setting or being ironic use the term birthing person. Usually it's assigned female at birth, right?
Bethany, are your children afraid of monsters in the attic or under the bed?
Yeah, they have.
Former deputy chief of staff under Donald Trump. That's who this woman is on the right.
Yeah, they have been, but we always tell them that they do not exist.
Today we have news. There are monsters in Uncle Sam's attic.
It's the words, phrases, definitions that are used, which may look like one thing, but absolutely mean another. And it is scary.
During this training, we will identify the problem.
You are the problem. I've already identified it. We can skip that.
Discuss examples from our time in the federal government, as well as the 5 cross-cutting principles of the current administration. We will teach you how to unwind the words and phrases that have been so artfully layered into every document in the federal government. You can do this in any role at any level of seniority. This training will prepare you to make changes and fast.
I talked about this in the video that released yesterday or the day before this one released, but Republicans constantly talking about a deep state, right? It's a big conspiracy theory, the deep state, the deep state. There is no deep state in reality. But what they're referring to, specifically the people who produced this video, the people sitting here talking to us, the Heritage Foundation, they believe that the deep state is just regular government employees, just people that, you know, clock in every day, clock out at the end of the night, make a normal paycheck, work for Homeland Security or the FBI or the whatever. It's not somebody that like the president specifically appoints to that position or who is specifically loyal to the president. So Anthony Fauci served under what was like 6 presidents or something. I think he served under Reagan for the AIDS crisis, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama, and then Trump, and then under Obama. So I think that's 7. He was not a political person. He was just doing his job. That's the vast majority of the U.S. government. The people who are throwing wrenches into everything are people appointed by presidents. And it's only like, I don't know, 3,000 people across the entire federal government that are appointed. But it's people that like control the FBI, like James Comey, for example. Anyway, these people on screen, they're trying to create a deep state. Like this whole thing has been like these training videos through all of them. The connecting theme has been we're trying to increase the number of political appointees and we're trying to make sure that power is centralized, quote unquote. I'm not like just sticking that word in there. They said that. We want you to rescind any authority that your subordinates might have so that every decision has to pass through you first. And you are loyal to the president. I mean, they have a bunch of slides in these videos about it. Right here, this is just like an example of one of the slides in their training videos. First steps to take as a cabinet secretary. On day 1, you must rescind all delegations of authority to your subordinates. This will ensure no official below you can perform an official agency action without your approval. Place political appointees in the proper roles beneath you before day 1. Use the myriad tools at your disposal to clear the way of insubordinate careerists. Reassign them, incentivize them, and as a last resort, fire them. They're creating a deep state. And in the deep state, they're describing what role language and code words and dog whistles and propaganda or whatever will have.
The left continually pivots and assaults definitions and phrases. They twist words and phrases to support subconscious acceptance of a philosophy that was rejected or is against the grain of human existence.
No?
Like, what is a woman?
Okay, that's an academic question raised by academic. Honestly, it's not even raised by anybody. Everyone knows what a woman is, okay? Jesus Christ, dude. These people are like obsessed with the stupidest stuff. You know why? Because it's something that whips people into a blood frenzy. They know that they can campaign on pissing people off about this. No one wonders what a woman is. Everybody knows. No one is asking that question except for like right-wing extremists. Jesus.
Like, what is a woman? Perhaps the most effective tool the left wields is their ability to engage in constant subliminal advertising through their narrative, words, and phrases.
She's probably, it seems like she's implying that the left engages in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where you kind of slip certain words in here or there to kind of subliminally program people to believe this or whatever. It doesn't really work that way. NLP, I guess, can be used to some degree a little bit, but it's not really a method of like brainwashing somebody. But they're going to try to stick their language in everywhere they can and erase language that they don't like. For the record, this is exactly, again, like this is what happened in Germany in the 20s and 30s. I don't like to keep bringing it back to that. I don't believe that Trump is like Hitler. Hitler was absolutely nuts. But the environment that produced Hitler was a hyper-nationalist, extremist, right-wing state. And that is what we are in right now. Or that's what we're headed toward at the very least. Same stuff. Hitler did this exact stuff right here. Like he banned certain words in government, on like government documents or whatever.
Marxism became socialism, then democratic socialism, and is now represented by the terms social justice and equity.
And who came up with those terms exactly, or who is accusing the left of believing those things? Nobody that I personally know believes in any of the shit that she just laid out. Marxism and socialism and communism and blah, 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 blah. Sure, there are some communists in the country, I suppose, probably. I'm sure that there are some socialists around. Sure, yeah, there are socialists. But there are no socialists, except maybe like 3 in Congress. And even then, are they? There are no there are no communists in Congress anywhere on any level, as far as I can tell. I've never heard of that. You know what there are, though? There are white supremacists in Congress. This problem they're outlining does not exist on the left. I'm not going to bother defending Marxism or socialism or communism or whatever. It's irrelevant. I'm just going to point out that this is fake. It's fabricated culture war outrage. So what she's pointing out here is that Republicans have escalated insults and slander against the left.
By the terms social justice and equity. This is perhaps the most scary of all.
Katie, what brings to mind is the quote, "He who controls the language rules the world." It's attributed to Joseph Stalin and other tyrants. And George Orwell stated, "He who controls language controls culture."
Dude, I love that they are actually doing what they're complaining about right now. They are trying to control the language and the culture, right? Isn't that what they're doing right now in this video?
Even more, Hitler and others lived by the creed. If you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it. Without doubt, it's true. Language is a powerful and often controlling tool.
Dude, the level of self-awareness blows me away. There's zero. Or are these people self-aware? Do they realize that Donald Trump does nothing but lie, 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 and convince everybody around him that it's true by saying it constantly? Every time he hits a media outlet, he says the same thing. It's the same line of propaganda every single time. They must realize that, right? She's a lawyer on the right. She's not stupid. It's like Ben Shapiro. He's not stupid. They aren't. The people that work for Donald Trump and around him, they're not idiots. I don't believe that. And that leads me to like one conclusion, that they're cynical actors that are trying to like further their own goals and interests and sacrificing anybody or anything along the way to do it. Anyway, check this next one out from them.
We can tell you the words and phrases being used today, but by the time you enter the administration, these examples may be obsolete. This will help you spot crucial issue areas to pay close attention to.
So I cut a little bit out there, I think, but she said using the term birthing person may be obsolete because they're just going to switch it to completely androgynous language or some other thing like that. I don't remember now. But she's just going completely over the top and claiming like the left is coming to get you. The degree of paranoia in these people's brains is absolutely unmatched.
We do not know what they will be calling men and women by the time you begin your tenure with the administration.
Are you serious?
The left is trying to dismantle America and rebuild it in their own image by using the art of deception.
Literally what they are doing in this video. That is the intent of this video. The self-awareness is off the charts.
Their own image by using the art of deception, and words and definitions are their weapon of choice. Remember, words change culture.
So, yeah, that's the point. Words change culture, and these people are desperate to make that happen for themselves. What language does she, think the left is co-opting or whatever the hell? I'll tell you what language she thinks the left is using. Climate change. They want to eliminate the term climate change from all federal documents all the way up the chain.
Climate change, allegedly, is everywhere. And if the
It is? Climate change is everywhere?
Everywhere. And if the American people elect a conservative president, his administration will have to eradicate climate change references from absolutely everywhere.
By the way, controlling language, that's what they're doing.
And according to our intelligence community, the number one threat facing our country today is, drumroll, climate change. Not Russia, not China, not AI, climate change.
That's accurate. Yes, absolutely. You know why? Because as we lose Florida, there are going to be climate refugees in the United States. People's houses are going to be underwater. Then they're going to have nowhere to go. How much money do you think it's going to cost the federal government to fix that? Which they're going to have to do. Billions, nay, trillions. Numbers have been worked out how much it's going to cost the federal government to deal with climate change. How much was it? According to the World Economic Forum, it costs about $16 million per minute to deal with climate change for the world, not just the U.S., for the world. The global cost of climate change damage is estimated to be between 1.7 trillion and 3.1 trillion per year by 2050. You know, we had a technological breakthrough not too long ago, a few years ago, that makes it possible for us to use fully renewable energy. One of our big setbacks, or one of the bottlenecks to it, was batteries. Having batteries that could hold enough of a charge to keep electricity going, indefinitely. That was the big issue. But we solved all of the problems, and we can actually build out a fully 100% renewable energy source right now, today. The United States could be fully renewable energy if we wanted. It would cost about the same amount we spent on the Iraq War, about $6 trillion in the United States. Worldwide, it'd cost about $30 trillion to outfit literally everybody. But instead, we're spending 1.7 to 3.1 trillion per year, or we will be by 2050. But yeah, okay, go on. Tell me more about how climate change is not a huge threat to America.
Climate change. This shows how the federal government is all in on this issue. And climate change activists wield a lot of power. This is an issue to pay attention to, as it has infiltrated every part of the federal government. Now, when I think of climate change, I immediately think of population control, don't you?
No. What? She's trying to get people whipped into a blood frenzy over conspiracies. Why doesn't the right want to accept climate change? I mean, the people at the top, like these guys. Why don't they want to accept climate change? In my opinion, it's because it would be damaging to the oil industry. And the oil industry has lobbyists that have so much money, it's ridiculous. Every single member of Congress, up and down the line, to my knowledge, takes donations from lobbyist groups and stuff. Use super PACs and things. I don't see any other reason why they'd be denying it. What other reason could there possibly be? They know it's nonsense, in my opinion, the people who wrote the script for this, I believe. So they have to tie it to a real, tangible problem. What is the issue? There is none. They're trying to get you freaked out over something, and it's depopulation. Like, what? Nobody's trying to control population. Get a grip on reality.
I really think of population control, don't you? I think about the people who don't want you to have children because of the impact on the environment.
I don't care how many kids you have. Makes no difference to me. Has anybody ever said that to anybody?
Perhaps not everyone will make that connection, but after spending time in the international space,
oh, they'll make that connection now, intentionally.
Time in the international space, trying to protect life, I can tell you that this is part of their ultimate goal.
Who is they? Are they in the room with us right now?
Is part of their ultimate goal, to control people.
Who's trying to control people? Who's trying to depopulate the planet or whatever? That's bad. That would be a bad thing to, like, depopulate. For economies, governments would never want to depopulate their country or whatever. Their economy would shrink. They wouldn't have enough money to pay out benefits for the previous existing class or whatever, and they'd go broke in one generation. In fact, we need to bring in as many immigrants as we can right now. Build the population up. It's so economically stimulative, it's ridiculous to add more people to the economy. Putting people on paper, documenting immigrants and refugees and things would mean they're now paying taxes, and it would be a massive boom. Instead, what are they doing? Fear-mongering about depopulation? Where did they even come up with this? Why is this a conspiracy theory on her lips? Just like a minute after that, she lays out an absolutely insane example. Here, listen to this.
When I arrived at USAID, I had a career employee ask me how many children I had.
Because she was, remember, she's a political appointee by Donald Trump. He picked her to lead an agency.
Ask me how many children I had. I thought it was a bit odd of a question, but to be kind, I answered, and I said I had 3 children. And he actually said to me, "Oh, wow, 1.5 too many for the environment."
Come on. Really? He did not say that. This person is fictitious, isn't he? Just tell the truth. Who has ever said those words before, ever? You know who I have a problem with? The Duggars. They have so many kids, it's ridiculous. But that's not like a climate change issue, really. I'm not telling specific people, don't do this or don't do that. We need to create regulation to solve problems. And I don't think that people should be regulated. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I don't think people's reproduction should be regulated. Should say that. But it doesn't matter because as far as we can tell, the Earth is going to reach an equilibrium and max out at inhabitants at about 12 billion, to my knowledge. We won't hit 12 billion. I think it's just going to creep up and then it's going to fall. It's already falling in China. Not because of government regulation, not because of anything like that. It's because people just don't want to have kids. That's it. And that's their choice. Fine. Don't have kids. I don't care if you have kids, is the point. I don't believe this story. I just don't.
I answered, and I said I had 3 children. And he actually said to me, "Oh, wow, 1.5 too many for the environment." I smiled and I said very politely, if I could have 10 more children, I would.
Well, why don't you then? They live in their own little delusional fantasy land. It is absolutely nuts. And they also touched on immigration and citizenship and human rights and stuff. It was wild. Listen to this one.
Language matters here for a lot of reasons, but primarily because citizens of the United States have rights that others, including foreign nationals who are illegally on our soil, do not.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Kind of putting their hand on the table, aren't they? They don't want people to be documented citizens or whatever, because then they're entitled to protection of the Constitution. In my opinion, everybody should be protected by the Constitution. I don't care if you're a citizen or not. You should not be subjected to unreasonable search and seizure. You should be able to practice your religion and speak your mind anytime you want. The First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment is complicated. I don't believe it's talking about everybody owning any gun they want at any time. It's very clearly not talking about that. But what's the Third Amendment? You don't have to quarter troops in your house. Fifth Amendment, you don't have to incriminate yourself. God, I don't remember all of them now. But anyway, the point is that everybody should be protected by those rights. She says we don't want them to have human rights because then they have protection against what we intend to do to them. Holy bro.
Others, including foreign nationals who are illegally on our soil, do not. If I had to guess, I would say that the left's attempt to wash away the term alien stems from...
But just for the record, I don't want to keep pulling it back to Hitler, but I'm doing a lot of research on this right now. And in Germany in the 20s and 30s, that's the word that they used. They referred to illegal aliens. And you know who those illegal aliens were? Jews. They were the immigrants in Germany in the 20s and 30s. The Jewish question was really rephrased as the immigrant problem? How do we deal with the Jewish question? How do we deal with the immigrant problem? It's the same problem over there. It's the same thing, the same rhetoric, the same words used by the Heritage Foundation.
Their disdain of actual law, since they want to avoid discussion of what federal immigration law actually requires, which is everything they refuse to do, and their interest in washing away the overall value of citizenship.
Citizenship isn't important if everybody has the right to free speech. Only you should have that right. That's insane.
Remember, citizenship places a focus on nationality and sovereignty. The left has bought into the globalist vision of a borderless world, and their language choices reflect that.
I don't believe in a borderless world. What are you talking about? Again, fictitious world that they live in. Nobody is in favor of this. Almost nobody. I don't know anybody who's in favor of this. Like, who's trying to get rid of the border? You can either have a welfare program or you can not have borders. And I don't know, like, a lot of libertarians are opposed to borders, interestingly. I'm okay with borders, and I'm okay with there being a process to get into the United States. To my knowledge, I haven't looked the stats up, but if it's in the video and you're hearing me say this right now, it means that it's accurate. Otherwise, I'll cut it in post. The vast majority of immigrants who are undocumented are people who flew in on a visa and just overstayed their visa. Not people who crossed over a border or whatever. You know who the people are who crossed over the border? Refugees. People from war-torn areas. Largely war-torn as a result of the United States actions, too, some of them. And they're not, like, going over a wall or whatever. They're going through a humanitarian corridor, which is legally required by international law, to go straight to the refugee center, the UN Refugee Center, to apply for asylum. That's what's happening. They're not immigrants. They're refugees. Anyway, if you want to stop illegal immigration or whatever from European countries, okay, that's a conversation we could have, but that's not the conversation she wants to have. Ever noticed how every time she talks about illegal immigration, it's always in reference to people crossing over the border, the southern border? Never in reference to Europeans overstaying their visas. Never. I've never heard them complain about that. The whole border issue, the border, like, line of propaganda, if you will, is designed to serve a purpose for them. Like with climate change. Like, what's the point of, how are they getting people freaked out about climate change? They're getting them freaked out by saying they're trying to depopulate the planet. How do they get people freaked out over immigration? Immigration is so good for the United States. Oh my God. There's like no downside practically to immigration. Seriously, think about it. There's no downside. What's the only downside? The one and only downside to immigration in their minds? They're not white. They don't speak English. I can't think of a single other reason for them to hate immigration. But how do they get people freaked out about it without saying something real racist? This.
But make no mistake, the current mass illegal immigration we are seeing as a result of the Biden administration's intentional actions is not migration, and these people are not migrants. It is an orchestrated invasion being led by the Biden administration in conjunction with the Mexican cartels. The bottom line is...
That's it. Invasion. Orchestrated by cartels. That's the claim. It's false, of course, but that's their claim. They're trying to make it out as though cartels are trying to take over the U.S. government by sending a bunch of immigrants into the United States so that they can vote in favor of whichever president they want to get in. In reality, you can't vote you can't vote for the president for something like 5 to 7 years after coming here. It's a long, difficult, arduous process. And honestly, not everybody even goes through it. Some people just get their green card and don't go for citizenship. They just keep the green card, in which case you cannot vote in federal elections. And additionally, you can't vote in any elections if you're undocumented. How would you even register? You need like an ID to register to vote and like a permanent address and stuff. Undocumented immigrants have none of those things. No one is coming for you. No one is doing an invasion or whatever. What is wrong with you? My God. Anyway, tell me what you think about these people. This is just nuts. Absolutely nuts. I'm so entertained by the degree of craziness in this whole thing. If you want to watch like the whole training video with me, I go through it on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered channel, 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So check that out. And tell me what you think in the comments. Next up, Richard Dawkins spread misinformation about an Algerian boxer. Facebook locked his account for entirely different reasons, but he claimed he was being persecuted for his shithead opinions. He had to come out and apologize to Facebook when he found out what happened. Not to the boxer, Facebook. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. You guys probably know Richard Dawkins if you've been involved in the atheist community to any degree ever. He's a famous atheist, wrote the book The God Delusion. I'm not a Christian, and when I was coming out of Jehovah's Witnesses, exiting and realizing like what happened to me, I was outraged, as a lot of people are when they realize what their high control religion did to them when they were younger. Richard Dawkins' book has helped a lot of people. I gotta hand it to him. But this dude is going down a real weird road now. This is on Hemant Mehta's Substack. If you're unfamiliar, he's a pretty cool guy. He wrote the foreword to my book, owenmorgan.com, by the way, if you want to check the book out. It's about Jehovah's Witnesses, their history and my experiences with them and everything, their culture, all of it. Also, check out my Patreon. I appreciate that. owenmorgan.com/Patreon. It's all in the description. Anyway, check this out. Hemant Mehta wrote this on a Substack, August 11th, 2024. Let's just kind of read through it, because Richard Dawkins got himself into a little bit of a controversy here. On Friday, best-selling atheist author Richard Dawkins claimed that his Facebook page had been shut down all because of a tweet he made condemning the female boxer who's been wrongly described by many on the right as male. Yeah, that's Imaine Khalif. Is that the name? I think that's the name. Boxer in the Women's Olympics, and it spread all over everything that she's really a man when it's just not true at all. It's just not. Imagine that. Somebody, you accomplish something big with your life. You're super excited. And somebody accuses you of being like the opposite gender. Imagine that for a second. How low would you feel? I mean, just think about like Michelle Obama and all the conspiracies about her being a man. How low must you feel to hear what these people are saying? I feel so bad for Imaine Khalif, who is a woman. Anyway, Dawkins says he was censored for talking about it. This is what Hemant Mehta said. None of that made any sense at the time, and now there's proof that Dawkins was spreading a lie. It may be too late, though, since right-wing conspiracy theorists have broadcast that misinformation to their massive audiences. All of this began over a week ago after Dawkins shared an article while claiming that two men masquerading as women were allowed to box in the Olympics against real women. One of those boxers was Imaine Khalif, an Algerian who later went on to earn the gold medal. Algeria does not allow you to be trans. You will die, or you'll go to jail for it. It's really not good at all. She's not trans. Anyway, this is what Richard Dawkins tweeted. Two men masquerading as women are being allowed to box against real women in the Olympics. Completely false. Back to Hemant Mehta. If you haven't followed this controversy, Khalif was accused of having XY chromosomes and therefore not being a real woman, quote unquote. The problem with that argument is that Khalif was assigned female at birth and identifies as a woman today. She is not trans. She's not intersex. She was never anything except female. Richard Dawkins claimed that it was confirmed that she has XY chromosomes. That was not confirmed. Where did he hear that? Who told him that? There is some organization claiming that she had XY. Nobody else has made that claim. They haven't provided any evidence of it or anything. It's just people yelling it into the void and others wish casting it, believing it's true. I mean, unless something's changed since I produced this video, no one has proven that she's trans or has any reason to believe she's trans at all. None. Back to Hemant Mehta. She's not trans. She's not intersex. She's never anything except female. The International Olympic Committee, the IOC, said Khalif and the other boxer met their eligibility criteria. Beyond all that, it's ludicrous to think an openly trans person could even exist in Algeria, where LGBT rights are non-existent, much less represent them at a global competition. In fact, there are no trans athletes at this year's Olympics, though they might be eligible under certain circumstances. Yeah, as far as like trans people in sports goes, I don't think that there's any way that trans people can participate in sports, for better or worse. You'll get like this nonstop. You get people lying about you and twisting it around and downplaying your accomplishments and everything else. Anyway, let's keep reading Hemant Mehta here. The controversy emerged after stories spread about how the two boxers were eliminated from the International Boxing Association's World Championships last year, after the IBA's Russian president said they failed a gender eligibility test due to XY chromosomes. Those claims, however, were never backed up by any evidence, and oh hey, what a coincidence, Khalif's disqualification at the event helped boost the prospects of a Russian athlete. It's telling that the IBA didn't disqualify Khalif until after she had beaten that Russian opponent. It's interesting, isn't it? You know what? Russia's been banned from, like, the Olympics multiple times, right? For doping, because they were, like, using steroids and stuff. You know, some countries are trustworthy by and large. You know, you can trust that they're not going to use steroids or not going to push them on their athletes or whatever. Some just are not. Russian athletes have just about always shown up with like test results showing that they have been taking steroids or something. They've been doping. Anyway, back to Hemant Mehta. The allegation that Khalif was a male punching a female in the name of sport, as J.K. Rowling insisted, has no basis in reality. Yet Dawkins not only spread that lie, spread Russian propaganda, really. He went on to mock the very idea of trans people competing in any sports. He posts a meme for the audio audience. It's a picture of cyclists at a competition and one guy out front with a motorcycle. And it says, biker who identifies as a cyclist wins the Tour de France. It's just like anti-trans bullshit that has no connection to reality at all. Like this stuff is not happening. I'm not even going to like argue that it should, because we're not even there, okay? I'm going to argue that you're full of shit. It's not happening. I'm not even going to try like defending a position that's fictitious. When it happens, then we'll talk about it. Richard Dawkins also retweeted this post. It says, first biological cheetah who identifies as a man set to take gold for Liechtenstein at the Paris Olympics. Back to Hemant Mehta. Sadly, none of this is very surprising. Dawkins has been spreading transphobic ideas for some time now, but the didn't hit the fan until Friday when he said his Facebook account had been deleted because of his posts. Quote, my entire Facebook account has been deleted, seemingly no reason given, because I tweeted that genetically male boxers, such as Imane Khalif, XY Undisputed, that's simply false, should not fight women in the Olympics. Of course, my opinion is open to civilized argument, but outright censorship? Boy, would it be embarrassing if he had to come out and admit that he was wrong, that he was not censored for his opinions, right? Oh, man, I would feel like shit if I had to do that. Unfortunately, Richard Dawkins did come out and admit he was wrong. Oops. This is so sad, dude. Richard Dawkins seriously helps a lot of people. By talking about this subject, by releasing this video, I have burned a bunch of bridges. I can no longer work with certain people or organizations because I'm talking about this. But I feel it's important to point out the problems in your own community. I don't hate Richard Dawkins. I hate that he's being a scumbag for no reason. Anyway, this is Richard Dawkins' post on Substack. A short, like, after his Facebook account was restored or whatever. Notice he tweeted it on Twitter originally, the accusation. Got how many engagements? Like, wow, this one says 2,300 views, but I'm not sure that that's accurate now. It's certainly not accurate now. I mean, some of his posts got 1.2 million views, 1.7 million views. I'm not sure how many likes, but anyway, the point is that he is very influential on Twitter, but he goes to Substack, didn't even know the dude had one, to apologize and say, I got it wrong. Are those 1.7 million people going to get this message? I doubt it. What's more, if he does post it to Twitter, are they going to read this whole thing? I doubt it. Anyway, this is Richard Dawkins' apology for getting it wrong. On July 30th, my Facebook account was closed down with no reason given. Associates of mine got in touch with a kind lawyer, very experienced in exactly this kind of case, and he offered pro bono to negotiate with Facebook on my behalf. I appreciated his generosity and accepted his offer. He approached Facebook and received no reply. Because no reason was given for the shutdown and no reply to the lawyer's overtures, I'm sorry to say we jumped to the wrong conclusion. Might it have been some connection with my contemporaneous stand against genetically male boxers fighting in women's Olympics? That didn't happen, though. I then tweeted what turned out to be false suspicion of Facebook's motives, and I deeply regret this. No fucking wow. You know, it's so funny to me that he regrets casting aspersions on Facebook. He's apologizing for mistreating Facebook. Oh my God, dude. He's not apologizing for slandering somebody, for lying about them, I guess libeling them, for defaming them anyway. He's not apologizing for whipping people into a blood frenzy over like anti-trans hate. None of that. Doesn't care. He's apologizing to Facebook. I don't even know what to do with this. On August 10th, I received an email from an official at Facebook saying he was looking into the question. He sent me a second email the same day giving a full explanation. Facebook's records showed, he explained, that one of the admins with access to my account had been hacked as long ago as June 22nd. This is mid-August when he posted all of these tweets, so it'd been a few months. And the hacker added a flurry of unauthorized admins. Their subsequent behavior alerted Facebook, who closed the account down while they worked on the problem. My Facebook account was restored on August 11th, and I am very grateful. We knew none of this until August 10th, 11 days after the account was shut down. Now I'm left in the mortifying position of having unjustly imputed an ignoble motive to Facebook. I can't even believe he's apologizing to Facebook over this. Jesus. I must say, it's a pity that whoever decided to close my account, certainly not the kind of official who eventually was brought in to to investigate the problem, omitted to get in touch at the time. Nevertheless, I accept responsibility and publish this to correct the record and apologize. Thank you so much for defending Facebook. Defending Facebook's good honor and proving that Facebook will not take down hateful posts that are attacking a community for some intrinsic attribute about who they are. Thanks for defending Facebook on that, Richard. Look, what he said is false. She's not XY undisputed, quote unquote. Why isn't he retracting that? She's not a man fighting women. Why isn't he apologizing for that one? Hemant Mehta continues, just to be clear, Dawkins is literally wrong when he says Khalif is a genetically male boxer and that her supposed XY chromosomes are undisputed. That allegation is very much in dispute, and Dawkins is just straight up lying about it. That tweet got plenty of traction after it was amplified by a chorus of bigots, including Elon Musk, wow, who later wrote, Facebook, aka Meta, can never be trusted. J.K. Rowling also jumped in on this whole anti-Imane Khalif thing, and apparently, as far as I can tell, Musk and Rowling have both been named in a criminal case in France, I believe, for cyber harassment, basically, against Imane Khalif. Which, good for her, yes, absolutely. I want to see less cyber harassment. You know, somebody says a mean word to you or whatever, okay, just move on, just block them or whatever. That's not what this is. This isn't just someone being mean. This is full-blown that could get her killed in her country. She should absolutely sue the shit out of them and get criminal charges filed. Anyways, continuing with Hemant Mehta, Dawkins' claim never made any sense. Why would Facebook punish him for something he posted on Twitter? Oh yeah, I didn't realize he posted that on Twitter, not Facebook. Those are two different companies. They have very different moderation rules. Why would Facebook punish him for bigotry that is routinely shared on Facebook? Evangelist Franklin Graham, just to name one example, has said far more hateful things about trans people far more frequently. His page remains up and running. If you want to find bigotry on Facebook, you won't have to look far. It's everywhere. There's just no way Dawkins would be punished this severely for this reason. And then apologize to Facebook for it? Why? Why would Facebook delete a page without explanation? I don't know. I've seen that happen before. No explanation for things happen. I don't know how Facebook works. Maybe Facebook always provides one. I've been penalized for various things I've posted in the past, but Facebook always tells me what the problem is, whether or not I agree with it, to prevent me from doing it again. They also send warnings before a page is deleted. Yeah, that's how YouTube operates also. So what the hell happened? Well, Dawkins' tweet about Facebook has now been deleted without explanation. Oh, at least he deleted it. And sadly, he didn't even delete the Imane Khalif one. He deleted the tweet about Facebook. I can't get over that. His Facebook page is back up and running. And here's the kicker. Danny Lever, Public Affairs and Communications Director at Meta, which owns Facebook, says there is no censorship issue at all. Dawkins' page just got hacked, and the company shut it down until Dawkins could verify the page was his. Danny Lever, quote, "This is not what happened. Dawkins' account appears to have been compromised or hacked, so we took action to secure the account and prevent wrong usage of the page. That step was taken on July 30th. His last post was on July 25th, before the Olympics even started, and was not even topical to boxing. This action had nothing to do with any content Mr. Dawkins posted, and we are in the process of restoring the page as soon as it's secured. While we were focused on securing the page, we regret that we weren't able to communicate this to the account holder more promptly." Yeah, I get it. You know, with hacks, you can't communicate with the person promptly. It needs to be like evaluated, like, is this the kind of thing where somebody physically got a hold of their device and like logged into their stuff or whatever? If that's the case, communicating with the person is bad. It would alert the hacker to the fact that they're being watched, or that they're, that the account is being protected by Facebook or whatever. It would make sense that they wouldn't communicate if there's a hack, but whatever. Anyway, Hemant Mehta says, in a separate response directly to Dawkins, she added, "The removal of your page was a precautionary measure due to indications of potential compromise, not due to any issues with the content you posted. There are many, many reasons to be critical of Meta," says Hemant Mehta, "but that explanation makes a lot of sense. It tracks with everything that happened. Indeed, Dawkins tweeted on August 2nd about this very thing. My Facebook page has been deleted for no apparent reason, and we have not received a response from Facebook. Was it something I said?" No, it wasn't something he said, says Hemant Mehta. He's blaming censorship when the answer probably boils down to an old guy forgetting his password after someone else got access to his page. As of this writing, though, Dawkins hasn't apologized for spreading misinformation about the boxer or for furthering a conspiracy theory about why the Facebook page was removed. If he thinks deleting the tweet will prevent the spread of the lie, guess what? The damage has already been done. Thank you so much for posting it to Substack, though. So nice of him, right? I've said this before, but it's appalling that the Center for Inquiry continues its affiliation with him. Yeah, CFI. I think he started CFI or something. I know people who have worked for CFI, been very high up, and maybe the president of CFI, I don't remember. It's just like a nonprofit that, what do they even do? I forget. Nonprofit organization that promotes science, critical thinking, and secularism worldwide. I'm not sure what they actually do, though. Oh, it's started by Carl Sagan. I didn't know that. Isaac Asimov, James Randi, Paul Kurtz. I didn't know. That's interesting. In 1991. Really cool, actually. CFI works to reduce belief in pseudoscience and the paranormal. It also advocates for the end of pseudoscience wherever it arises. I'm not sure how they do that, though. Usually, like American atheists, they have people like tracking bills that are submitted, on a state level and on a federal level, and they analyze the bills and they break them down and all this stuff. That's what American atheists do. They also sue states on behalf of people who are violating others' civil rights, their First Amendment rights or whatever. What does CFI do? I have no idea. Say, examining religion, fighting pseudoscience, that's not specific. Anyway, Dawkins is affiliated with him is the point. To end the article, Hemant Mehta says, I repeat, a genetically male boxer was not fighting women in the Olympics. Dawkins is still lying about that and refuses to own up to it. Not only did he refuse to own up to it and continue to lie, but he straight up said that it's undisputed XY. It is not. My God. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry to say this. He's like one of the religious figures that I cover. Again, this video may burn a lot of bridges for me. I don't know what to do with this. it's disappointing to see somebody attacking a minority group who didn't even do anything. He's complaining about something that's fictitious and ginning up hate against people for absolutely no reason. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Next up, Christian nationalist Joel Webbon says he absolutely hates democracy. This is a talking point I've heard a few times before, but is getting real attention now. How did we get to a point where people openly announce they hate democracy, and it's just accepted by everybody around them? We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. This is Joel Webbon, this guy on screen here. He is a Christian nationalist, recently announced that he absolutely hates democracy. Listen to this.
The reason why I have grown to despise democracy is because it's not we the people. It's we the some people. And who are those people? Non-elected officials.
In other videos that we'll probably get to in a few minutes, Joel Webbon specifically says he wants a dictator. So the alternative is not we the some, it's me, the person. It's one guy making all these decisions. That's what he wants over democracy. Where's the logic here? Like, you know the solution to what he's complaining about right now? More democracy. No, it's direct democracy, I guess, is what he's talking about. But direct democracy doesn't work on a scale like this. I think like beyond 60,000 people or something like that, direct democracy is not helpful. You have to have like a representative system.
Like what democracy, what it gives, lends its strength to is instead of having elected officials that have power, is a raw universal, because that's what we have is a universal democracy.
No, we have a representative democracy, aka a republic.
Everyone is allowed to vote, right? Everyone. And just for the record, yeah, I think the 19th Amendment should be repealed. I think that because, well, first and foremost, because I'm a Christian.
So he's complaining that people can vote. He doesn't want women to vote. Holy dude. Yeah, let's see here. 19th Amendment text. Just some context, because it's been forever since I've read the Constitution or anything. Okay, here's the text of the 19th Amendment. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the U.S. or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Is that really the entirety of it? Wow. That's the entirety of the 19th Amendment, seemingly. Yep. It's just giving women the right to vote. That's what he's complaining about. Oh my God.
And that is the Christian position. Oh my gosh, you're saying that? Yes, that is the Christian position, is that households should not be divided against one another. So it's not just elevating a male vote.
Well, what's that have to do with women voting? Aren't women allowed, separate from households or whatever? Can't they just make decisions for themselves? What the heck?
But it's elevating the household vote. We're saying that that society, if you break it down to the basic building block, is not atomistic as individuals, but molecular, being households. The way that God sees humanity is he breaks them down to families. Mm-hmm. So
what makes him think that? Is he saying that God doesn't see people as individuals? So does he think that God doesn't care about the unborn, quote unquote? Am I reading this correctly? Because he doesn't care about individuals? What is he going on about? He's just making things up right now.
It's not just random individual atoms all bouncing around together and 350 million atoms bouncing together in one nation.
Yeah, direct democracy not good at this scale. Already covered that.
One piece of land, but it's families. And so by repealing the 19th Amendment, just for the record, it's not just trying to take away a female vote, but it's trying to say, no, there's a family vote. Right?
No, it's taking away the female vote.
There's a household, and it's well, where do women get their voice? Where women get their voice is from their father, from their husband.
Okay.
If they're not married, it's from their father. If they're not married and their father's dead, it's from their brother. It's from their uncle. It's the men.
And what if there are literally no men in their lives? See, this is what he's really getting to. there should be men in women's lives. And, you know, in the 1970s, I think, women were allowed for the very first time to have credit cards, to get home loans without a man, and all kinds of things were gained in the 70s. No, not even that long ago. It's crazy. There are women alive today that were not allowed to have credit cards because they were women, simply for that reason alone. In fact, even today, if you go to a doctor, ask them to, you know, tie your tubes or whatever, get your tubes tied, a lot of the time you have to have the permission of your husband to do that, really, or the man in your life. So this attitude is still very much here, surprisingly. Aside from all of that, that's what Joel Webbon is shooting for here. He wants a world in which women, where women are incapable of operating without men because of the way that things function. So there will be no women without families. That means no gay women, no trans women at all, no deviation in any way from the norm, no asexual people, no nothing, no gay people either. If he had his way, that's how it would be, because women don't deserve the right to vote, and he thinks he can push them back into this box. This is nuts. Women could not take out business loans until the late 80s. That is crazy. I had no idea it was that recent. I was born in 1989. I'm not sure if it may have been before that, but I'm pretty damn close. So the point is that Joel Webbon just wants to, like, erase people's rights.
Not married and their father's dead. It's from their brother. It's from their uncle. It's the men in their lives that love them.
Absolutely insane. Okay, now every time I talk about Dusty Deevers on the left or Joel Webbon, I tend to play this video. It's about 6 seconds long, and it really accents their view on society. It really portrays it well. Listen to what Dusty Deevers, state House of Representatives member, I believe. No. Is he a senator? Maybe he's a senator. Anyway, he's from Oklahoma. He's a congressman from Oklahoma either way. And he's also a Christian nationalist.
When we saw churches closing for long periods, we saw people, you know, with this love your neighbor propaganda that was really submit to your neighbor and not submit to God, submit to the powers that be.
Love your neighbor propaganda. I will never get tired of that. That is fantastic. Love your neighbor propaganda. Literally words out of Jesus' mouth. God, this is so ridiculous. So those are the caliber of people that we're dealing with here. Just to give you a little bit more context on Joel Webbon and this whole little sphere, we play another clip for you here. He talks more about voting in this one. This one is from late July 2024.
If you're not a member of the civil magistrate, but you are a citizen of these United States or whatever country you're a part of, if you have a voting mechanism, as we currently do, by God's grace, I hope that one day we don't. For the record,
wait, I'm sorry. What was that? One more time?
Or a citizen of these United States or whatever country you're a part of, if you have a voting mechanism, as we currently do, by God's grace, I hope that one day we don't.
Dude wants to eradicate voting. I can't get much clearer than that, right? And again, he's sitting on a stage with a state senator, I think he is. Dusty Deevers from Oklahoma. Sitting on a stage with him. They're friends. They chat all the time. I have a ton of videos of these two together. Matter of fact, on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered channel, I watched this whole panel beginning to end. It's edited and cleaned up on there if you want to check it out. Also, check out my book. I'd appreciate that. OwenMorgan.com. It's about Jehovah's Witnesses, their history, my experience with them. That'd be awesome. Anyway, let's keep listening here.
I hope that one day we don't. For the record, people are like, he's against the 19th Amendment.
That's women's right to vote. Yeah, he's pretty clearly against it.
No,
No, he literally said that. He is against it. He's going to hedge and pretend he's not now. This is what I hate so much about Nazis, neo-Nazis or whatever. Well, this isn't the only thing, obviously, but they can't just stand up to their belief. They can't just come out and say what they believe. They have to hedge and pretend they don't and lighten it and say, oh, well, I really stand for blah, 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 blah. Just come out and say it. You want women barefoot in the kitchen and no longer voting and no longer taking out loans, no longer being gay, whatever. Just say it. Why are you messing around here? What are you, afraid? What are you, like a chick or something? I hope that type of language will appeal to him. Is that what it is? Are you a chick?
No, I think there's a lot of people that shouldn't be able to vote besides just, as it pertains to the 19th Amendment.
Well, the 19th Amendment is about women voting, right? Citizens of the U.S. will not be denied the right to vote on account of sex. Pretty, clear.
Democracy has not been great. Part of the reason things get worse is because of democracy. It's, you pull the degenerate peanut gallery, and what you get is further devolving into degeneracy.
You promise them more ways.
I find this super fascinating. Back in the 1920s, the world was a mess. We saw the result of totalitarianism, of authoritarianism in a bunch of different countries. Italy was a totalitarian state. That was the word that was used to describe fascists at the time, the fascist political party. That was the name of the party. During Mussolini's reign, the late teens, so 1920 basically clear through for, 10, 15 years. The left called the fascist party totalitarians, and the fascist party embraced it. Then you had another form of fascism, Nazism, which was in Germany, just north of Italy, basically. They had a totalitarian or an authoritarian regime also. And the Russia area or whatever, USSR, they had one going too, under the banner of communism, fascinatingly. The 20s and the 30s were unique in that, every major country practically was authoritarian. We've seen what happens when democracy fails. We see what happens when it's swept aside in favor of something else. It's ugly. People die en masse. It's horrific. Yeah, democracy's not perfect. That goes without saying. But it's the best system that we have. In Joel Webbon's mind, as we'll see in a minute, he has a different system in mind that he wants to use other than democracy, and it's psychotic. Keep listening.
Well, you promise them more ways to indulge in their degeneracy.
Well, you have to.
And then they put you in power, and then you give that to them.
Well, for the record, I don't want anybody giving me more ways to indulge in degeneracy or whatever. I want people letting me be a degenerate. I like doing what I want. I don't care what your definition of degeneracy is. It's irrelevant to me. If I'm not affecting you, I can live my life and do what I want. Your right to swing your fist ends right here at the tip of my nose. You aren't exercising your rights to swing your fist anymore. You are violating my rights to not be punched in the nose at that point. That's the idea of the Constitution. Yeah, it's designed to govern degenerates. Absolutely, of course. People should be allowed to do whatever the hell they want with their life, up to and including being Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, atheist, whatever. Religious freedom, baby. In Joel Webbon's mind, he does not want that. He wants to impose his beliefs on others. Keep listening. When you hear him talk about degeneracy, he's talking about getting a dictatorship. That's what he's calling for.
Put you in power, and then you give that to them.
That's the only way you can win in our current system.
Oh, that was the end. The only way you can win in our current system is to promise people that they will not have their rights violated? Okay. That's not true. I mean, we've got a ton of authoritarians, screaming about stuff. Like Trump is an authoritarian in a lot of ways. He's an extremist nutcase. He's not telling people he's going to expand their rights. He wants to rein in people's rights. But okay, keep pretending to be the victim. Whatever. Joel Webbon has different degrees of change that he wants to implement in the U.S. government. He wants to start with a specific change to the Constitution. If you're curious, he has his own Constitution that he and some other people signed on to, called the Christian Nationalist Constitution or something. And I talked about it on my main channel, Owen Morgan, if you want to look at it. We went through it. It was crazy. Oh, my God. Anyway, for now, since he can't implement a different constitution, listen to his plan to change our current one. This came out early May 2024, by the way.
I love the Constitution.
Right.
absolutely love it.
No, he doesn't.
If there was anything that I would do to the Constitution at all, if revival swept through the land, or we got an American Caesar and he was Christian, and through him and the law of God.
American Caesar, what he means is dictator.
Second or third use functioning as, first and third use, revealing the wickedness of the people, and then gospel preachers and churches doing their ministry, and a bunch of people get saved. And we say, hey, you know what? We want to set things straight because there was a lot that was good in our founding, but a little bit was missing. One of the first things that I would advocate for is not.
He doesn't believe that. This is so annoying to me. Just come out and tell us what you believe. He espouses contradictory positions and ideals in multiple videos. I know that you want a dictator. Why are you pretending you liked the country at its founding? It wasn't a dictatorship at the time. Just be honest. Jesus, dude. Are you afraid of something?
It's good in our founding, but a little bit was missing. One of the first things that I would advocate for is not even changing the Constitution, but simply adopting to the Constitution a preamble of.
Well, that's called changing. I don't know if you know the definition of that word.
Like the Apostles' Creed.
Right.
To actually say that this God is the triune God, and giving more specificity. Other than that, my point is, other than that, I love the Constitution.
Other than that, right, okay. If you're unfamiliar, Apostles' Creed is something called a confession. I didn't know about a lot of this until not too long ago. It's a confession that's used a lot in the Catholic Church, and Lutheranism and some other denominations, I believe, use it, but a lot of kids have to memorize this when they're like young in church or whatever. It's just a basic thing. I believe in Jesus Christ, his only son, our Lord, who's conceived by the Holy Spirit and born of the Virgin Mary. He suffered under Pontius Pilate, blah, blah, blah. It's just describing Christian belief, basically. There's also the Nicene Creed. And these were all basically invented between the years 100 CE and like 600, 500 or 600 CE. Nicene Creed is, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, born of the Father before all ages, God from God, light from light, true God from true God. Anyway, the point is that he wants to put that stuff into the preamble of the Constitution. Listen to his breakdown here, though. This is where he just kind of comes out and says it.
We're degenerates. We're not even close to, we're degenerates.
Perfect. That's what this country's all about.
Degenerates. The Constitution is not suited for governing degenerates.
No, that's exactly what it's designed to do. Are you serious? Has he ever read the Constitution? Does he know the history of the United States like at all?
Now, if you're asking me my preference, that would probably be my preference, would be a constitutional republic. But
I don't believe you.
I think the conditions for that is a moral people. So I think you can work towards that.
You have to have moral people to have a constitutional republic. Interesting. But that's never going to happen. I mean, moral in his mind or whatever. It's just not. Because people are all different. They all have different beliefs and ideals and values and moral standards and everything else. They're not like you. There will always be an outlying exception. 10% maybe, whatever. Hell, 5%, 2%. Even under the strict control of Germany in the 30s, where saying something would get you killed or sent to a camp or whatever, a concentration camp, there was still a percentage of people who opposed it. There were people who spoke out, who fought it at every turn. You will always have outliers. So I don't know what he thinks. I don't know when he thinks he's going to be able to accomplish this. I mean, it seems to me like he's saying, I know we will never have a moral people, so I do not want a constitutional republic, ever.
In the future, but I don't think constitutioning even harder is going to get us out of our current mess.
No, it is. That's the thing. The problem isn't the Constitution. It's a fantastic document. The problem is you trying to destroy the Constitution, trying to pull pieces out or ignore them selectively or morph them or whatever, bastardize them.
I don't see us getting out of this apart from things getting worse and worse, and then eventually like a Caesar type rising through the ranks.
When he says Caesar type, he's using the word Caesar because he doesn't want to use a more modern word that's more appropriate and obvious. A Hitler type would have been more accurate to his feelings and beliefs. A Stalin type. a Mussolini type. He's going back to Caesar because it's not abrasive today. But they were basically the same.
Rising through the ranks of populist, figure, and the people, the political will, the people are desperate, and they're like, yes, do it, so-and-so, and then so-and-so, Constitution be damned, just rules with an iron fist. And
why is he laughing?
Like a Cromwell type, and
just say Hitler. We know what you're thinking.
And hopefully don't get his son. Maybe then you're able, and then you maybe.
Hopefully, I mean, we don't know. Maybe, but it'd still be worth it if we got his son, Hell, we could have 500 years of authoritarian dictatorship. That'd be fine with me, as long as that was a Christian nationalist dictatorship. We are A-okay. What a psychotic thing to say.
And then you maybe it's just a one generation, one guy kind of thing. And then you have to move back to, aristocracy or some other form.
Aristocracy? So he's saying that we should not live in a system where the people can make decisions, but we should live in a system where elites control everything. That's what an aristocracy is. People at the very top own all of the wealth and control everything. I guess in his mind, the aristocrats would be pastors. The leaders would all be religious nutcases, and the people on the bottom, who are just too stupid to understand what's happening, will be governed by these aristocrats? Is that like his vision? Holy Christ, dude. How did this guy, get famous at all? Jesus. He's also very anti-Semitic, for the record. I've covered a bunch of stuff about him on this channel. So let me rephrase. When I say anti-Semitic, on the right, okay, there are a number of people who support Israel and who oppose it, and a number of different reasons. In the United States, there's a group of people who opposes Israel because of their treatment of Palestinians. It's just horrific, disgusting, awful stuff. Genocide happening. Then there's a group of people on the right who support Israel because they need Israel to exist for their religious beliefs to be fulfilled. There must be a third temple built on Solomon's Mount, right where Al-Aqsa Mosque exists right now. They have to tear down the mosque, which would be World War III, and build a temple there. And then Jesus can come back. That's the belief of many Christians. And then on the right, there's another group, a group of people who are Christians and also Nazis, hate Israel, hate Jews, with the visceral, the burning hot passion of 1,000 suns. Hate them because they think that Jews killed Jesus and that Jesus wasn't really Jewish and all kinds of other crazy stuff. All propaganda that came right out of Nazi Germany, by the way. They're Nazis. And Joel Webbon has expressed a disdain for Israel, not because he's concerned about Palestinians. He's not. They're not Christian. But because he doesn't fucking like Jews. Straight up. And I know that because he went on a full-blown Nazis TV show called Stu Peters. Again, covered all of this on this channel before. I don't want to go back through it, but if he's not a Nazi, then he's Nazi adjacent at best. I don't use that word lightly. Seriously. I'm not saying that because I don't like him or whatever other thing. It's not about that. It's that he holds Nazi beliefs. Anyway, just listen to this one.
We are going to behave as a Christian people. And what does that mean? It means we're going to ban pornography.
So in another video I'm not going to play right now, he says, you're going to, I can't force you to believe in something, but I'm going to force you to pretend to believe in it. I'm going to force you to pray every day at the dinner table. I'm going to force you to go to church every Sunday and Wednesday night or whatever. That's his goal here. So he says, as a Christian nation, here's what he's going to force people to do.
We are going to behave as a Christian people. And what does that mean? It means we're going to ban pornography. It means we are going to ban no-fault divorce. It means we are going to utterly...
I mean, he's saying he's going to take people's freedom and rights away. He's going to force them to not be degenerates in his mind. Jesus, dude.
Utterly abolish abortion, including in vitro, including the hormonal birth control pill. Mm-hmm. Every single one of its forms. Now,
but the birth control pill isn't abortion. What about condoms? I mean, I know what he thinks about them. He doesn't like them. It's not about abortion or saving a life or whatever. It's about, what is it about? Why is he opposed to birth control and abortion simultaneously? Like, what is his point? What's he trying to do here? At what point does the Bible say you shouldn't use birth control? At what point did it even imply it? I have no idea where he's getting all of these ideas from. Okay, so he wants to ban people from doing IVF to have babies that they couldn't otherwise have. He wants to ban abortion and birth control and porn and no-fault divorce. Go on.
Pill. Every single one of its forms, not just the Planned Parenthood clinic in Texas, but we're going to go down to the local CVS and we're going to start knocking those pills off the shelf. No more human sacrifice. So a civil magistrate.
There's no human sacrifice. Like the birth control. Does he think that the birth control pill aborts babies?
Sacrifice. So a civil magistrate can do that.
Yeah.
He can and should do that.
He's laying out plans for taking over the United States. That's psychotic. Again, I don't think he's going to take control. I don't believe that he'll have any influence, basically, on anything. He will never be close to power, probably. But he is influential in the sense that he's talking to a large crowd of people and shaping the culture the way that he wants it to be shaped. That's concerning. I don't believe that we'll ever see the day where birth control and abortion are both outright fully banned. We might get an abortion ban, probably not, but not birth control. I doubt it. All this stuff he's talking about is just absolutely insane and really draws out what Christian nationalism is for us. Now, he mentioned the birth control pill there. They don't sell the birth control pill on the counter. Have you ever, been around somebody that took a birth control pill before? Do you know what that is? It's a synthetic hormone. They've isolated the hormone in people that makes them think that they're pregnant so that they don't release an egg, I believe. I don't remember exactly how it works. But anyway, it prevents the body from following through on the process. So a pregnancy never even happens. And the Plan B pill, I assume might be what he's talking about when he says knock them off the shelves, to my knowledge, is a higher dose of a normal birth control pill, and it does not, abort a pregnancy either. If you are pregnant and it has, attached to the uterine wall or whatever, that's it. It won't work. Everything will just continue on. It's not dangerous or anything. It just, it won't do anything for you. You have to take it within 72 hours, I believe. The sooner the better after doing stuff, the Plan B pill, that is, because as soon as the pregnancy attaches to the uterine wall, that it's over. As soon as you become pregnant, that's it. You can't stop it. Not that way anyway. So I don't know what he's complaining about. There are no abortions happening from the pill, from Plan B or whatever. They're not abortion pills. People misunderstand this. Anyway, these people need help, man, for real. This is absolutely crazy. To be so brazenly anti-democracy like this, how did we get here in society? I was talking about Kirk Cameron recently, too, with activist mommy Elizabeth Johnston. They did a thing together. Talked about it on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered YouTube channel. Crazy stuff, dude. Kirk Cameron said the same thing. He's anti-democracy. What the hell? How did we get here? Jesus. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. This is absolutely nuts. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. And take a look at my YouTube channels. Owen Morgan, where I talk about religious issues. Telltale Fireside Chat, where I talk about politics. Telltale Unfiltered, where I do long-form breakdowns of stuff like this. And take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.